I would say this. I would put it in a very neutral place. I would say that if you want to live healthy, you got to eat healthy. It's less about weight and eating healthy, right?
100%.
And it's
more
like,
about health for me.
And I do not at all support any type of body shaming. The problem I have with the term is people will weaponize the term. So when you disagree with like how they eat, maybe not that person in particular, but maybe you're raising your children and you say, look, I want you to eat this way to be healthy. And they'll accuse you of body shaming. So it's kind of jumped a line, right? It's kind of jumped a line. It's like, look, eat healthy. Everyone will be better off. Everyone.
It's like, don't bully. That word has also been weaponized.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more about societal acceptance or, I don't know. I have a lot of opinions.
Look, I wouldn't mandate. I'm not body shaming and I wouldn't mandate it, right? I wouldn't mandate it all. But I think it's like everything else. So like if you're always being negative in, sarcastic to people, even people you don't meet, you're affecting everyone around you. Mm-hmm. And that also reflects back on you and says, hey, people don't want to be a part of your life. Right. And I think that if we eat poorly, this is what I've learned as a diabetic, right? If you eat poorly, you are miserable. You're sick all the time. You're prone to more diseases. You're moody. You don't want to talk to people. You begin to develop, why is this happening to me? This victim mentality. And your whole outlook on life goes down the toilet. And that all starts with eating, right? So like when I talk about this, it's not really about, body shaming. It's like, look, if you want to have a good life, eat healthy. Eat healthier. Start there. Try something.
Yeah. It all goes back to mindset.
Yeah. And we do. We all affect everybody.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
But I'm not for mandates at all. If you want to eat sugar, the government needs to stay out of your life. If you love ice cream, you should be able to eat as much as you want.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one because I feel like what is appropriate. Do you know, my son told me this, that the bread from Subway in the US has to be categorized as cake in the UK because of the amount of sugar that's in it.
Yeah, it's the high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah. So I think those regulations, because here's the problem. If the government or whoever, the regulating bodies, say that it can be put on the shelf and they put it on the shelf and they say that it's food and it is ingestible, what education do we get? Like I said, doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, we get one nutrition class. Do you think that they're educating anyone else about what is actually food and what is healthy to ingest? That's the bigger problem.
Yeah.
Education. That you walk down the aisles of the grocery store and you have all of these chips and things that are processed and chemically laden, and they're labeled as safe foods. Here, you go to other countries and they're regulated.
Yeah.
So mandates, no. Stricter regulations on what is approved for human consumption, yes.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many artificial foods that are, and they're constantly making more. And they're injecting all kinds of stuff into our proteins and our beef and our chicken, all kinds of hormones. There's all kinds of new pesticides. There's all kinds, they're using, I just saw this the other day and I don't remember the name, but irradiated dust, right? That you can't easily wash off. Like you have to peel everything. You can't wash the stuff off anymore. And, it has a cumulative toll, right? You can't just have all these toxins, separate. Oh, they're all safe. Yeah. If you're not eating any other toxins and that's the only one you have, it's safe. But you have like 50, 60, 500 different toxins in our food supply.
But it's not just our food supply. And so this is a good point that you make about toxic exposure, because that is another source of chronic disease, is that our cells cannot process. Our bodies cannot clean out all of the exposures that we have. So we've got toxins on our food, we've got toxins in our water, we've got toxins in our air, and we're ingesting this, and our immune system, our liver, it's all trying to filter it out, but we can't. So what we have to do is we have to put some good stuff in there. So these are free radicals that are getting in our body. We need to put some antioxidants. The other problem is that the depletion of the soil, the nutrient density of the food that is being produced doesn't have a high enough nutritional density to really combat the toxins. So even if you're eating a pound of blueberries, it's still not going to be enough antioxidants to combat the free radicals that are in the body. And so our cells cannot hold anymore. And that causes diabetes, that causes high blood pressure, that causes fatty liver, that causes Alzheimer's. That's a problem. It's the toxic load that we're being exposed to.
You know, it's probably a conversation for another. We're going to have you on for a second video, but I want to talk just about food and nutrition, right? Because there's certain vitamins that we need every day. There are certain vitamins we need that our bodies cannot produce or not produce on their own enough. There are all kinds of minerals that we need. There's all kinds of things in our depleted soil that we can't get, but there are all kinds of cool little supplements. I have this little bottle. I just drop it, 3 drops in a glass of water every day. Boom. You know, Celtic salts every day, just a little bit. Boom. My vitamin B's, D's, vitamin K, by the way, it's not a vitamin.
People aren't educated on is the route of administration. Like B12 is only really absorbed well sublingually. You've got the way that they're produced. There are different compounds of each nutrient. So I could get on my soapbox on that one for a real long time because there's a lot of education around that needs to be had. That's actually, I do a lot.
I want to develop a product with you. We should have a product that we make. We'll sell gummies. We'll have gummies that have all the minerals that you need, all the vitamins that you need.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. And then we'll have MCT oil in there. We'll just like give it away cheap. All right. So on that note, right? So given that our bodies are so toxic, and this is something I've just started researching, so maybe you can educate me in this. So let's talk about parasites and how many people have parasites. I'm reading that are really the people that are most prone to parasites are people who have a lot of toxins and heavy metals in their systems. Is that true?
I'll be 100% honest. That is not a topic that I'm well versed on.
Oh,
so
God, I think it's the next big thing.
I don't feel like I can speak well to that, at least right now, until I've done a little more research. So
totally respect that answer.
Yeah.
Totally. You know, I got to tell you, one of the things I learned years and years ago is when you're asking someone something or you're interviewing them in a job or you're trying to hire them to do something, whether it's a doctor, you wait for someone who will say they don't know how, because it means that they're far less likely to make a mistake trying to do something they can't do. Yeah. Massive respect for you right there. All right. Well, let's talk about heavy metals, right? Like, can you talk about that? Do you have any background on that?
Not specifically heavy metals as a whole. What I can tell you is the importance of a good detox because we all have heavy metal exposure. I mean, almost any of us, again, just the things that we're exposed to, what's in our water.
Fluoride.
All of those things. So I don't know statistics or anything like that, or, I'm not big on knowing about blood work with heavy metals. So I don't know that, but I do know that there is value in a good detox.
I wish I knew ahead of time that we were going to come into this, because I wish I could better articulate where I learned this information from, because I just read a study in the last year about our water and fluoride is now being classified as a toxin. And that it's causing so many problems. And people have been screaming about it for 30 years. And every time the public takes over, or our water supply gets taken over by government, they put fluoride in it.
Yeah. I filter my water externally.
I drink distilled water only.
I mean, it's just, there are so many things that you can't see that's in there.
You know what we should say, because we're all doom and gloom. I just want to tell everybody this, that it's never too late to get started on this. Like, your body has this amazing ability to heal itself. And everything we're talking about, if you just, I mean, especially if you can detox first, right? Talk to a nutritionist and do a good detox. Start eating well. Your body will repair itself. It can reverse a lot of the damage. You can reverse a lot of the effects of aging, especially with fasting. Fasting is great at reversing the effects of aging. You're not going to turn into a 12-year-old. But there are so many hopes. And even if you've suffered damage, like I have type 2 diabetes, and I used to be over 305 pounds, and I've lost a lot of that and kept it off. And you would think that my life was doomed. And I was born with congenital heart disease, and I had open heart surgery when I was 10. So the likelihood that I was going to die quickly if I didn't lose weight was very high, in my opinion, and my doctors. I have so many comorbidities that went along with it. But you can reverse all of that. There are some things you can't reverse. If something breaks, if something breaks too far, like I think my diabetes is a good example of that. No matter what I do, my insulin resistance, it gets a little better. That 5-day fast I did helped my insulin resistance a little bit, but it's still there.
Just haven't found the right solution yet.
That's possible. This is why I'm talking. I was going to ask you about parasites, because I'm really getting into researching gut health, right? And a lot of what happens with gut health has to do with the foods that you eat, right? And removing the bad flora, right? And parasites, the fauna that's in there. If you have parasites, because it's your gut flora that communicates to your brain and to the rest of your body. And I also am given to understand that if you can restore your gut flora, you can remove things like ADHD, which if you haven't already figured out, I have. So, these are all things that I'm interested in.
So I actually, also autoimmune disease that is almost reversed. I have plenty of people who I can tell you stories who their type 2 diabetes is pretty well reversed off of drugs that are from pharmacies. I actually work with a supplement company. I'm not going to mention it here, but I mean, that is specifically, I can tell you, I've done a lot of research around, feeding the right nutrients into your gut, because that's how you improve it. You get that bacteria to start wanting and craving the good things that you're putting in. And so, but you've got to keep the sugar out.
That's the big one. Yeah. It literally is. Like if you get rid of if all you have the will to do is get rid of high fructose corn syrup, get rid of it. Move to table sugar. And then once you feel stable, then knock it down again, move to honey. Yeah. And then to monk fruit.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's it. Like once you have healed your gut, that's when you can choose to do something like eat an ice cream, because it's not going to start taking over. Because that's where, if you have a gut that craves the sugar now and you put one time you put something good in it, it's not going to matter. It's like, get out of here. And so when I eat ice cream, I usually wake up or pizza or something that is not really fueling my body.
I'll wake up with a hangover. A hangover.
Yes, I do.
It's a hangover.
I get a terrible headache the next day.
Me too.
So I have to know that it's worth it. Is that experience with my kids, is that experience worth what I know I'll feel like? But you get to choose that when you're functioning at an optimal level and you feel good and you know that one little thing is going to make you feel bad.
Right. Two things I know about myself, and like ice cream and pizza are my kryptonite. And no matter how well I can do well for a year or 2 years, I have one ice cream and it's 6 to 8 weeks of hell getting off of it again. Right. And so what I've learned to do, and I do not recommend that anyone else do this, so this is what I do, and I don't even consider this to be healthy, is that once I know that I am going down that path, I will just hit it as hard as I can until I make myself sick and go, oh, like I can break an 8 or 12 week cycle in a week or two if I just crush a lot of carbs and just to break it. It's tough. But it's better. It's worse being extended over, because what happens is you start to build up habits, right?
Are you talking about for you eat a bunch of carbs to make yourself sick so you stop?
Yes.
Oh.
It's terrible, but it works for me. It's awful. I figure the quicker I can get through it, the quicker I can get back on the train. And so it's basically the quicker I can feel absolutely sick from it. It's not hard.
I don't recommend that to any of your listeners.
No, I don't either. Look, you got to talk about yourself on here. We can't be so impersonal. Otherwise it's just boring. And hopefully I'll reach a point where I don't do that anymore. But hey, look, at least it's not alcohol,
Yeah.
So, that isn't that interesting? Like we have stigma on drugs like cocaine and heroin and alcohol, but we don't have it on sugar. And sugar is worse in so many ways.
Yep.
It's more addictive than nicotine.
Yep.
It's
because
so
it is put in everything and it's put on a shelf that is
because everyone does it. And
it's acceptable to ingest and nobody tells you it's bad. Nobody tells you it's bad until you start feeling crummy and you wonder why you're sick and it's from the sugar.
I think
we start out feeding our kids sugar when they're babies.
Really young.
Yeah.
Yep. I think a bad thing becomes acceptable when everyone's doing it. Because then it gets very hard for the few to call it out because they get so much pressure from everybody else.
Yeah, that's like I have been in a situation where, everybody's drinking and I no thanks. What? I don't drink.
Come on, have one, join the party.
Exactly. Or it's you always have to explain why, because I just don't.
I don't need to explain myself.
Exactly. So I think it is hard because there are peer pressures everywhere. And I think that is a targeted point right there, that peer pressure to be thin, to be fat, to be no sugar, to, drink the alcohol, even though you don't want to. And I think the biggest point that you just made right there is just stay in your own lane and worry about yourself.
Yeah. There's a thin line between support and pressure.
Yes, there is. Yep.
Yeah.
Very much.
How often do we mistake peer pressure for support? Well, they're just trying to help me. It's not the way they're saying it doesn't sound like they're helping. It sounds more like control.
It is. It's control. It's control.
Yeah.
So we can control ourselves and we can stay in our lane and control what we do.
Right.
And just smile and encourage people.
Right. So let's talk about personal growth, right? Because we talked about coaching, we talked about food. And it's always been my experience that we start however you get to start when it comes to personal growth. But very quickly, you're going to learn that there's something in front of the thing that you want to work on, that you have to work on first. And what I've found is whether it's, hey, I want to make more money. Well, I got to work on my attitude. Well, I got to work on my emotion. Oh, I got to work on my trauma. Well, I got to work on my eating. Oh, well, I got to work on my working out.
Yep.
So it always starts with, hey, are you exercising healthy? And are you eating healthy? What do you think?
I think that our thoughts create our reality. I said that in the beginning because everything is a circumstance. Like if you can start by focusing on something positive, let's say it's raining outside, for example, and that's the circumstance we could agree upon. It's raining outside, right? We're standing in the same room. We can agree that it's raining. And you look out and you're like, it's such a great day to take a nap because rain just helps me sleep. And you look at that as a positive. You see the rain as I enjoy that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I straightened my hair today. Of course it's going to rain today. This is terrible. I'm going to go out. I'm going to have frizzy hair. So your perception is a positive one from the rain, that you're going to enjoy the downtime. And I'm freaking out because my hair is going to be a mess. And so from that, you're going to have a much easier time with that circumstance than I am. And you can equate that to anything. What if we both stepped on the scale and you looked at it and I was like, man, awesome. I lost a pound today. And you looked at it and you're like, man, I'm stuck at the same weight. I was doing everything right or whatever. But I truly feel like it's how you view a neutral circumstance is how we create our reality. Because when you have a positive thought, the vibration that goes through your body is positive, and then you have a good, happy emotion. If you look at a negative thing and you negatively cause that vibration, then you have a negative thought. Your actions are going to reflect the same. You're going to either act chipper and happy, or you're going to walk around gloomy. And that's what creates the results that we have. So I feel like personally, and that's how I have grown personally, is changing your thought process around a neutral circumstance. That's what I preach. Not really.
Right.
That's what I teach.
No, I like it. I think you're spot on. I think the same difference with being grateful, right? It's about being positive, because if you're grateful, right, you're focusing on the good things, because we all have bad things that happen to us. And I went through what would have otherwise been a rough month for me last month for so many different reasons. And, I'm just looking at the 2 or 3 things that are really bugging me because they're taking up a lot of my time. And I'm like, wait a second, do I have a roof over my head? Yeah. It's like at 2 places. Do I have a car? Yeah, I have a really nice car. Am I hungry? I'm not hungry. Are my kids healthy? Yes. Are they, enjoying success for their age? Yeah, they're doing great. They're in college. I've raised 2 amazing young women. I have so much to be grateful for. And I'm like, these other things that I'm just hyper fixating on are so small. They're so small. And, when you're focusing on your gratitude, it just pushes all those negative thoughts out.
You've also heard what you focus on grows. I know you've heard that. You've been in, a self-development space. So it's both. Again, it's your thoughts. What you're thinking about and what you're focusing on, it grows. And so if we can shift our thinking, the big problem that people have is if you've been in such a negative place, it's hard on your own to figure out how you can, okay, so I'm going to say the complete opposite. Well, your brain is smart. Our brains are really smart. And so you can't trick your brain. So you can't just sometimes when you've been in a negative space, just look in the mirror and tell yourself all of these positive affirmations and expect them to stick. So there's a progression of how you get there. You have to start with neutral. You have to start with being neutral with your thoughts and then moving to positive. And that's the thing that people struggle with if they don't have help and there's not someone coaching them through that, because you can't trick your brain.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look for instant gratification. I was positive all day and I'm still upset. It's like, you have 20, 30, 40, 50 years of negativity and these habits of having these negative thoughts when things occur to you. It's going to take time to work through that.
We also overwhelm ourselves and we want to try to shift everything positive at the same time. And, we only have the capacity. You've still got to choose one thing that you're working on at a time. And we're all or nothing society, right? I'm going to do it all. I'm going to be positive about everything, or I'm not doing it. We're kind of like that all or nothing too.
Yeah. Have instant gratification. I'm going to fix it tomorrow. I'm going to be rich tomorrow, happy tomorrow, the best relationship tomorrow. I wish. Give me the magic wand. I want that magic wand.
I think the magic wand is just choosing to focus on the positive. The magic is choosing positive thoughts, choosing to look at everyone in a positive light. You have that choice.
What started you on your personal growth journey?
About 5 years ago, I was in a really, really rough place. I had just gotten done with my master's. It's been okay. Well, I had gotten done. I started working. I was away from home a lot more. And then my husband's best friend committed suicide.
Oh.
And so it rocked our world, and it just, I was already in a bit of a downward spiral with being away from home and my kids feeling like I wasn't seeing them and I was working too much and trying to make the money. I was chasing $1. There are a lot of things, but that was my breaking point. Like I suffered with eating disorder all through high school. I went on my first diet, like I said, at 9 years old. I didn't say that, but I was a serial dieter since I was 9 years old. But that was the breaking point. And so I started wanting to compete in bodybuilding. So I was like, I'm going to just chase this body harder. And where the real self-development came is I got on stage and I won the show and I'm nationally qualified and I have all these trophies and I have the perfect body and everyone's congratulating me. And I was not happy. I was like, this is not what this was supposed to feel like. I worked so hard for this body and the praise, and I could not even enjoy it. I honestly didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about that success. Like there were a lot of things right in a kind of big piece of time. But when I realized that I had the perfect body, but my mind still wasn't right, I had to change something.
I think that's true for a lot of people. Like we set these goals and we finally get there. It certainly happened to me. And we get there and we don't have anything we thought we'd have, because most people who want to be rich don't want to be rich just to have the money. They want to have the money to do stuff. And then they get there and they don't know what they want to do. Right? I find that the more financial independence that I have, the less I want to do. Right? I would just rather spend time with my children.
Yeah.
Just I don't necessarily like to travel. I'm not very materialistic, so I don't have extravagant clothes, and I have a nice car, but I only have one.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have 12. I'm not saying I could afford 12, by the way. But I look at my friends, they have these giant houses, and I'm like, it would just be me. What would be the point? It'd just make me feel more lonely. And so, I would say I experienced something very similar, but for very different reasons. Is that when I finally got there, I'm like, okay, so what was the point? I wasted all that time and energy and I'm still miserable.
Yeah. Well, and that's what led to, I think going on a personal development journey, it helps you open up what is your purpose on earth. And that's where I have found, doing the podcast and just encouraging women to feel differently and know that there's different. And so really just that pouring into others and finding a purpose has really been healing for me as well. You've gone on this journey and you feel like, wow, maybe I've got it a little bit figured out. And then realizing that I'm never going to have it all figured out. But, finding purpose in what you're doing, or knowing that your story can impact someone else, and just being a positive influence. I think that's really helpful too. Finding purpose in what you're doing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that in the personal growth, field, whether you're just participating or whether you're a leader, because you're going to meet people that, will learn something from your experience.
Yeah. I got to tell you, up until 5 years ago, I didn't know that the world that we're involved in, the events that we go to, I had no idea that it existed. And I think that that's another really strange thing, is that so many people are not educated on the world of self-development.
You just nailed it. We're going to now get into a very interesting conversation. Continue before I say anything.
I had no idea. And I was living in this world that I was searching for something that I did not know was out there. There are people, they're getting yourself into a room with people who have this system of figuring out self-development and getting in the right proximity with people. And I had no idea it was out there. And that really changed my life.
Right.
Going to one event that I almost didn't walk in. I almost did not walk in the door. I'm standing in the parking garage and my family was visiting. And I called my husband and I said, I'm not going. I'm just going to come home. This is silly. He said, go in. You're already there. Changed my life.
I will say this about that if you walk into the room that's talking about issues that are relevant to you, it's like getting struck by lightning. It will give you energy and purpose. It will supercharge you. But I will also say this, right? Because I think a lot of people get hung up on a one room after another, one trainer, one coach after another. And not all trainers are created equal. Like not only is the quality different, but the application is different. Some trainers and some messages are specifically designed and sculpted for people with very specific events in their life or issues in their life. And if those things don't pertain to you, you can go to those people all day and you're just going to be bored. Like, what am I wasting my money on? But you find the one that's relevant for you. And better than that, like there's different qualities. You get this, you start with someone on a first year journey as a coach, as opposed to someone who's been doing it for 10 years. There is a massive difference. right?
But it's different too for the client, because it depends on where they are in their journey, because
I agree.
sometimes this, and so I am a huge proponent on finding a coach or finding an accountability person or finding someone who you resonate with. And
Yes.
if you're in a situation where you feel like, man, this isn't working, to be bold enough to say, this isn't working and I need to find someone different. And, I would always be respectful if someone came to me and said, look, it's just not working. I really like you, and maybe I don't like you. Maybe I found out that I don't like you at all, and
Right.
it isn't working, because I have had multiple coaches. I'm sure you have as well. I mean, lots, because you have to find the one that you resonate with, and you have to find the one that fits your personality and helps develop the skills that you really need developed,
Right.
because we're all on our own journeys. I think that you just said that great. Like, you have to find the one that works for you. It may be the one who's new because they're closer to where you are. It may be the one who's been in the game for 20 years. You can't just go to the one who's been in the game for 20 years just because you see other people getting.
Well, you may not be able to afford them.
Well, true. Or you may try to afford them and then you realize, man, I totally out of this. Been there.
Yeah. I would say do your due diligence. Like, if you found a coach and it's electric, do yourself a favor and talk to 2 or 3 more people before you select a coach.
Yep.
And then when you are ready to commit, if you are truly ready to commit, you'll know. Because if you've got 1 foot out, you got to wait.
Yeah.
If you are truly ready to commit, do it for 3 months, because you're not going to notice anything substantial. Commit to 3 months. Yep. But do your due diligence. There are a lot of people who are like, I thought these were Ritz crackers.
Yeah.
They're not Ritz crackers.
They're townhouse. They're club crackers.
Yeah, the club. They're
close, but they're not the same.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask for references,
Yes. Yeah. I think we get hung up because you see someone that's prestigious and they're pumping out these high quality people, and you feel a little intimidated to ask for references. You're paying for a service.
Right.
Like, don't be afraid to. It's like if you were interviewing someone for a job, they are providing you a service. So,
right.
So do your due diligence. 100%. I agree with that.
I would say this: if you brought your child to them, what would you do? You would ask very specific and pointed questions. Well, treat yourself the same way.
But if we treated ourselves the same way as we did our kids or our mom or whoever we love, we would be in a whole different world, because you don't treat yourself the same as you
There's
do.
no way. That's like one of my biggest life lessons.
That we are, because we prioritize other people always.
Yes.
So if you could take that statement, do what you would for your kids, always for yourself, it would be totally different. We wouldn't need coaches.
That's why I felt the need to say that. Right. So like, if you could do it for like a couple of hours of interview calls, just, you don't have to do it. You'll get there for always. Right. And then you'll find that coach that helps you get there. Yeah. What was the biggest self-development event? Like, where were you? What did you read? What was the information that you took in that changed your life the most in your personal growth journey? Oh,
wow. I'll be 100% honest. And this one too. I mean, for me, I figured out finally that for me, the best self-development book has been the Bible.
Wow. I've heard that a lot lately.
So, I mean, I read 1,000 books that were self-development. And when it really started to change was when I started reading the Bible and getting into scripture and listening for myself, because, there is a stigma around religion and church. And so what I'll say is, it's a book. Read the book. Take all of the stigma out of church and religion and read the book.
Oh, well, I got a good question for you. Which version?
I actually have read several. So I'm actually studying the Hebrew Bible now. I have gotten to where I really am intrigued by, the Hebrew version is supposed to be prior to a lot of rewritings. And so I really wanted to see what was significantly different or if there was a translation. But I think that especially if you are of faith, when you're reading the Bible, like everyone's going to perceive it differently, and what you need to read, just like with any other self-development book, something that you read is going to hit you different than it hits me. And so it's whatever version you can understand the best is what I would say.
So I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, and my spiritual journey has been so different than most people. And I look at, the Bible and the different versions of the Bible, and you look at, if you research the changes that people made, and by the way, I'm by no means a scholar in this, but what does bother me is you'll read a passage from a more contemporary version of the Bible, and then you'll go back to before when they re-edited it, and the words will be different, and the meaning is precisely different. And then if you really get into it, you'll begin to understand, all right, what did the original word mean in Greek or in Hebrew, and how are they different? And how's that different from the word they chose to liken it with in the English language? And so there can be multiple words, English words, that could be used for a translation, but just like there are words that have two meanings in the English language, right? There are words in Greek and in Hebrew that have multiple meanings. So you have to really understand the context of the passage in the original language to do it correctly. And then you realize that at certain points, people are like, well, we don't think the people need to hear it that way, or that's not the message that the church wants to convey. So you get something different. And so one of the reasons why I no longer read the Bible is for me, it's like, all right, what was the original intent of the communicator who said it or who wrote it, or the original author?
But I suppose you could look at it like when you're reading any other self-development book, it's whoever wrote that book, that was their perception. How you read it is how you interpret it and how you use it moving forward.
I agree. And maybe I'm over analyzing it. I just think from when I think of it, I said to myself, well, if I read it, I want to read it in the original Greek and or Hebrew, but I don't have the time or the inclination to learn either of those languages at my age. My neuroplasticity is not nearly what it was when I was a child. I'm old. And then what I want to know is, because when you look at the Bible, they're conveying information from specific prophets or saints or whomever. Okay. That's who you're told the message is coming from, but that's not who it's coming from, depending upon whoever translated that version of the Bible.
But again, it's just words and however they impact you. And so for you, I would say, if you have that negative connotation around it because of your history and your upbringing and what you were told and an experience you had in church, you have a different perspective of the words than I do, because I read them as words, and how they come across to me is how I use them in my life. I don't try to push them on anyone else. I don't try to push my perspective. It's when I read it, how it makes me feel and how I'm going to move forward in my life and use that piece of scripture, that piece of what I read that morning.
I can respect that. I'll give you my point of view. I'll try and be a little bit more succinct about it. I think that if you read a passage and you have an emotional connection with that passage, but it's not true, like if your emotional connection and reaction would have been different if it was spelled out differently, then you have been manipulated and propagandized.
I don't agree. Your thoughts create your reality. So however you respond to the words is how you're going to move forward with your day. So I guess maybe I'm not understanding you well, because why does it matter who wrote it? It's
not who wrote it. It's how they changed the message. Like there are some passages, and again, I wish I knew we were going to talk about this because I could research and pull it up, but there are some passages where the meaning is flipped. Right? So if the message has been changed, whatever emotional reaction you do or don't have to it, like it could literally lead you down the wrong path of enlightenment. It could cause you emotional pain.
Any book could. Any book could.
That's true. And that's why I think it's important that you are very careful about what you put into your brain because you're programming it.
Okay, I agree. So, but if you choose to read the Bible versus essentialism that I have sitting over here on my desk or whatever, like, again, we're adults and we have that choice that's what we want to put in. I mean, it's not like we're watching some horror movie. Like you have the choice of what you're putting in. And so the reaction that you have and how you use it moving forward, I don't know. I guess I'm
not being anti-Bible or anti-religion. I'm not anti-religion. I'm not anti-Christian. I'm not an atheist. I'm not anything these days. And I am fascinated by the Bible. Every now and then I'll watch something on YouTube and I'll be reading scripture just because I like to understand the perspective of different people because I do learn things from it. I guess my point is if you were going to take a medicine, would you want something that's 50% successful or 90% successful or 50% pure or 99% pure? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, if I'm going to waste my time doing something.
I do. But that's funny because there are different versions. Just exactly what you said. Supplements are not regulated. So some of them, you may not even know that it's 30%. So that's what I'm saying. Like you choose a version.
That's right.
And you don't know.
Right. So, I agree. You have to start somewhere, but I think I have, and I'm not saying I know everything because I don't. If I'm going to invest my time, which is so important to me nowadays, and I'm going to put stuff into me that's going to affect what I believe and how I behave and how I feel about myself and the world around me, I want to make sure that I'm getting the message from the original author.
Then that's your choice because, and again, that's where you have that choice and everyone has their choice of what books they read. And if they read horror novels and if they read, just self-development books, and what they choose to put in their head is the same as what we choose to put in our body. We all have the choice to make, and it all makes a difference,
Right.
So it is all about letting everyone have their choice. And so again, I read the Bible, but I will talk about my experience, but I don't try to make someone do that because I do it.
Right. No, I think that's really important. Yeah, I think that's critical. I think everyone is on their own journey, and unless it becomes self-destructive or they're hurting other people, or unless you're invited to, you don't interrupt it.
Yep. Agree.
You actually get in the way when you do.
Yep.
Great. Well, wow, that's almost a full hour and 20 minutes, Lindsey.
I think we need another episode where we say, this is what we're talking about.
No, this is how this is supposed to go. This is less an interview and more of a conversation. Yes. So I bring people on and I kind of have questions. And then what really gets my juices going is someone will say something that they believe or that they know or that they researched or that possibly they think or this new realization. And then that's what I want to know about because that's when the conversation gets really cool. But I do want to get my knowledge and my thoughts together. I want to do another one with you down the road, maybe 2-3 months, and we'd talk nutrition. Like, yeah, sure. I really want to get into what are the essential minerals and vitamins? Where do we get them? And what's the most readily absorbable? And what's the best way to absorb some of these things? Like sometimes it's the skin is better. Sometimes orally is almost always better, but there's different ways of doing different things and different sources. And so many people would feel so much better by doing one or two things that would cost them pennies a day.
Yes.
Pennies a day, just ingesting stuff, right? So we're not talking, not eating sugar anymore or working out an hour a day. We're just like, hey, take these minerals, take these vitamins, and it'll be a start.
Yeah, because so many of our bodies are just starved. The cells are starved of proper nutrients.
Right.
Because we were taught that vitamins cause expensive urine in medicine is what we were previously taught. And so that's an old school thought that is coming around now that research shows that that's not accurate.
Yeah, I know. You know what they say is that 97% of scientific researchers agree with the people who pay them.
Uh-huh.
You know, I love people say, "Wow, there's a new paper out that says X, Y, Z." So make sure you read the fine print and look what they excluded from it to get the result that they were paid to get. You know.
Yeah. You should see who funds medical schools.
Oh, it's usually the big Pharma.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and did you know the same people who own Big Pharma own all the food production facilities, who own all the artificial stuff that we're consuming, you know, the high glucose food syrup and the GMOs and everything that they're doing, right? Which is making us sick.
Supplements are so expensive because they're not covered by insurance, but those are the things that are actually going to keep people healthy and be healthcare, not disease management. Oh,
you want to get into some serious conversation. The second government took control of the healthcare system, made it possible for these people to lobby government to implement what they wanted to have happen in the healthcare system, which made it more difficult for us to get healthy. And now you can't not have it. Now you have to pay for it irregardless. So you're paying these people to make you unhealthy. That's my humble opinion. Don't listen to it if you don't like it.
But they still will never make you healthy because they're not taught how to. We're not taught how to.
They can fix broken bones. They can move your arteries around and help your heart.
On stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Get to an optimal health.
They address symptoms. You know, real quick before we end, you know, about type 2 diabetes. I was listening to this one doctor who researches it a lot. He said, look, type 2 diabetes has everything to do with the mitochondria. He said, high blood sugar is downstream from insulin resistance, which is downstream from mitochondrial dysfunction, which is downstream from toxicity, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why fasting helps all of that.
Yeah. But you fast, you get rid of the yuck, but are you putting in the good?
Right. You have to put in the good afterwards.
You have to also then put in the good. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's the piece you might be missing.
Healing is a process. No, I do. Like, you should see, look, you're going to come over to my place one day, you and your husband, you're going to look through all my cabinets. Like, if someone says, hey, I heard this new thing works or you should try it, I'm like, I'll drop $35 on a bottle and try it. So I have tons of stuff.
So that's where the research comes in, and you have to find quality because
I agree.
Aren't FDA approved, and so you have to make sure that your products are third party tested. There's a lot of things that really go into making.
Yeah, I don't trust anything with the government. Nothing. If the government puts their seal of approval on it, for me, that's a reason to stay away from it. I want third party tested. But even then, just because it works for other people doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And just because it doesn't work for 70% of other people doesn't mean it might not work for you. You might be in that 30%. And 30% is actually quite high when you think about it. So dropping $30 on a bottle of something to try it once is not, for me, it doesn't hurt me.
I know, but the other thing about supplements is that people treat them like supplements instead of medicine, which is if you're saying that you're going to fill your cells with the proper nutrients and you don't give it,
I see what you're saying. Eat the right food so you won't have to take supplements.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm also saying that if you get on a supplement that makes you feel good and it's doing good for your health, why do we stop them? You wouldn't ever stop a blood pressure medicine. You would never stop your diabetes medicine. So
I agree.
Once you either see results, because there's a graph and I can show it to you.
The reason why I have so many empty bottles up there is because those are the ones that didn't work. I'm saying I will try it, right? Yeah. If I don't think it's going to kill me, I'll try it, right? Yeah. Like 20%. There was a time when I was over 305 pounds and I was putting everything into myself that I would possibly help. And the lesson I learned is the vast majority of that doesn't help. You have to exercise. And if you're going to lose weight, 99% of weight loss happens in the kitchen. All right. So you have to eat right and you have to work out. You have to do both. You have to exercise. I'm not saying you have to be a bodybuilder or you have to come away from the gym exhausted every day, but exercise, walk 20 minutes a day. Let's start there.
Balancing your hormones and getting your body balanced and cellular nutrition is key.
Yeah. We're going to have so many more conversations. All right. So let's leave. You're going to leave us off with a piece of advice. What's one thing you would tell people to start doing today to improve their health? If there's one thing that you thought that would help people start their journey, what would you advise them to do? Or what would you suggest that they do?
It is focus on the positive, because I will say this again, your thoughts create your reality, and everything that you come in contact is a circumstance. You get the choice to look at it positively or look at it negatively. And that, I mean, just choose your thoughts wisely. Choose
Awesome.
positive thoughts.
Thank you, Lindsey. If you're still listening to the end, you are definitely an exceptional human being. But look down below in the video. You're going to get links to her pages and her podcast and Lindsey's email if you want to hire her as a coach. Obviously, she's amazing. She gets amazing results. Thank you for tuning in.